The hall is silent, vast, and humming with a low, pulsating energy. Creatures of all shapes and sizes, some insectoid, others sleek and metallic, sit in ornate, curved chairs. The air smells sterile, thick with formality and judgment. Every species in the galaxy has its eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, focused on one matter: humans. The tribunal, a collective of the most advanced and civilized races, has convened to discuss a problem they hadn't foreseen. Humanity, a relatively new species on the galactic stage, has somehow appended the carefully constructed rules of war. And now, they must be judged. Across the chamber, the voices of the alien factions rumble, each with their own distinct cadence. One alien, tall and covered in chitinous plates, leans forward. Its voice clicks in time with its mandibles as it speaks, laced with confusion and distaste. They do not follow our codes. They do not respect the protocols that have been in place for millennia. The being gestures sharply, indicating the sheer absurdity of the situation. They fight like animals. Another alien, reptilian with iridescent scales, responds in a low growl, coiling its tail. Worse. Animals follow instinct. Humans are deliberate. They exploit, they manipulate, and they destroy. There is no honor in their ways. The tribunal shifts uncomfortably. The concept of war in this galaxy is ancient, bound by a rigid set of principles and rules of engagement. Civilizations have risen and fallen, but the codes have remained. No unnecessary killing. Respect for surrender. Honor in battle. For these alien species, war is an art form, structured, predictable, with traditions passed down through countless generations. But then, humans arrived. And nothing made sense anymore. A holographic display illuminates the center of the room, showing a scene from one of the recent conflicts. A human force, smaller in number and less technologically advanced, overwhelmed a far superior alien army. It wasn't brute strength or superior weaponry. It was something else. Guerrilla tactics. Traps laid in places the aliens hadn't even thought to check. Psychological warfare that shattered morale before the first shots were fired. The image flickers, showing the aftermath, devastation, but no clear sign of how it was accomplished. They wage war not to win, says another voice, deeper and resonant, belonging to a gelatinous entity that ripples as it speaks. They wage war to survive. And that makes them unpredictable. Dangerous. It pauses, letting the weight of its words settle over the gathering. The tribunal members murmur, their collective unease palpable. In this galaxy, war is treated with a sense of decorum, like a deadly chess match where both sides know the moves. Yet humans have torn up the rulebook entirely. It's not just their disregard for the codes, they've turned war into something dirty, something primal. The aliens, for all their technological superiority, had never imagined such chaos. One of the more pacifistic members of the tribunal, a being with luminous, transparent skin and gentle features, speaks up with a tone of concern rather than anger. Perhaps, they do not understand our ways. They are new to the galaxy, unaccustomed to our traditions. Perhaps they can be taught. A bark of harsh laughter echoes from the opposite side of the room. A brutish figure, covered in overlapping layers of muscle and cybernetic enhancements, leans forward. Taught? You think these humans can be taught to respect our ways? His voice is a low rumble, filled with disdain. They respect nothing. They break every rule, not out of ignorance, but because they do not care. They are predators, adapting to any situation, bending the environment to their will. They won't stop until everything they touch is consumed or destroyed. The pacifist alien visibly recoils but says nothing in response. The room grows tense once more. There is a creeping realization among them, a terrifying thought, that perhaps the humans don't want to be part of this galactic order. Perhaps, they don't care about peace, tradition, or even power in the conventional sense. Perhaps, they only care about survival. A deep, metallic voice from the head of the chamber speaks, bringing all attention to it. This is the tribunal's leader, an entity whose body is more machine than organic, adorned with symbols of countless victories and millennia of wisdom. The question we must answer today is not merely whether humanity has violated our codes, it intones, each word precise, calculated. The question is whether they belong in this galaxy at all. Are they an anomaly, or a threat? The silence that follows is profound. No one dares to speak. The aliens, for all their differences, share a single, overriding thought: humanity is unlike any enemy they've ever faced. They are not governed by the same principles of honor or reason. They don't follow the rules of civilized conflict. They have no rules at all. The tribunal's leader turns to a panel showing the latest casualty figures. Entire fleets, wiped out. Colonies, overrun. Yet the humans continue to spread, fighting battles not to dominate, but simply to survive. And they win, despite everything the galaxy throws at them. Finally, the leader speaks once more, its voice grim. We must decide their fate. Before they decide ours. The alien witness shifts in its seat, the gleam of its battle-hardened armor reflecting the dim light of the tribunal's chamber. Its eyes, narrow, predatory slits, glow with the memory of defeat. It is a warrior, born and bred for combat, from a species that has honed the art of war over countless millennia. And yet, when it speaks of the humans, there is no pride, no bravado. Only confusion, tinged with fear. We thought we understood war. We thought we understood them, the warrior begins, its voice a low growl, almost a rumble. Our fleet was 3 times their size. Our technology was superior in every conceivable way. Shields, weapons, tactics honed over centuries of conflict. We expected a fight, a real fight, the kind that would bring honor to our people. It pauses, the next words catching in its throat. But humans, they don't fight like that. A holographic image flickers into life, showing a rugged landscape, forests, mountains, and vast stretches of land where the battle took place. The tribunal watches silently as the scene unfolds, a skirmish between the alien warriors and a smaller human force. But something is off. The human soldiers aren't advancing in formation like the aliens. They aren't adhering to any recognizable strategy. They scatter, they hide, they use the terrain itself as their ally. And then, like ghosts in the fog, they strike. They didn't meet us in the open, the warrior continues, its claws twitching involuntarily. They didn't give us the honor of a face-to-face confrontation. They hid, waiting for us to advance. And then, from every angle, rocks, trees, underbrush, they attacked. They took us out, one by one. The aliens watching shift uncomfortably, murmurs echoing through the chamber. This isn't how war is supposed to be fought. Where is the discipline? Where is the structure? Where is the honor? They use traps, the warrior adds bitterly. Crude, primitive traps. Explosives hidden in the ground, lures to draw us into ambushes. We never saw them coming. They turned the environment against us, turned our strength into weakness. The bitterness in its voice deepens, laced with humiliation. The tribunal continues to watch as the humans, in the holographic replay, pick off the aliens with surgical precision. They don't engage in long, drawn-out battles. They strike quickly, efficiently, then retreat back into the shadows, leaving the alien forces disoriented and panicked. It's not war, at least not in the way the galaxy understands it. It's survival. And then there were the diseases, the warrior says, voice almost trembling now. They unleashed biological weapons, simple viruses that targeted our physiology. They didn't need sophisticated technology. They just needed to understand our biology. They let nature do the killing for them. The warrior's eyes darken, its tone haunted. We never even knew what hit us. The tribunal shifts, disgusted and unsettled. Biological warfare was an ancient, forbidden tactic in the galaxy, something no advanced civilization would dare to employ. To the aliens, it's not just dishonorable, it's barbaric, a step backward into the darkness of pre-civilized times. But to humans, it seems, war isn't about honor. It's about surviving by any means necessary. They used nuclear weapons, another voice interjects, this one from a different alien species that had been on the receiving end of a human attack. Its form is less imposing than the warriors, but the sense of shock in its voice is even more pronounced. Crude, outdated technology by our standards. We had assumed such methods were relics of the past. But they deployed them without hesitation, whole colonies, vaporized in an instant. It was unthinkable. The chamber falls silent once more. Unthinkable. That word lingers in the air like a bad taste. For these advanced species, war is a game of precision, a series of carefully measured moves and countermoves. To obliterate entire populations with something as blunt and savage as a nuclear strike, it's beyond comprehension. They don't play by the rules, the warrior says, regaining some of its composure but still looking as though it has aged centuries from the encounter. They don't have rules. Every tactic, every weapon is on the table for them. There is no limit to what they will do to win. There's a grim pause as the tribunal digests this. One of the elder members, from a peaceful race known for diplomacy, speaks up. But why? Why do they fight this way? Surely they must know that such methods only make them enemies across the galaxy. Because they don't care about enemies, the warrior replies, voice cold and sure. They don't care about anything but survival. War to us is a contest, a means to an end. For them, it's existence itself. They aren't trying to conquer or dominate. They're trying to outlast. Every battle is a fight for their lives. The aliens exchange uneasy glances, the depth of the revelation slowly sinking in. Humans fight not to win wars in the traditional sense, but because they don't see any other choice. Their entire species seems to operate with the understanding that they are always on the edge of annihilation, and that mindset drives every action, every decision in battle. They improvise, the warrior adds, its voice now filled with reluctant respect. They adapt to every situation. When technology fails, they use whatever they can find. When they're outnumbered, they turn to ambushes. They create weapons out of nothing, strategies on the fly. It's not just that they're ruthless, it's that they're unpredictable. Unpredictable. That word echoes around the chamber, filling the void left by the warrior's words. It's the unpredictability that terrifies the tribunal most of all. There is no pattern to humanity's actions, no logic that can be followed. What works in one engagement will be tossed aside in favor of something completely different in the next. They are wild cards, forces of chaos in a galaxy that thrives on order. The elder member speaks again, its voice soft but firm. And this is why we must be careful. Humanity is not like us. They are not bound by our rules, by our traditions. They are something else entirely. The voice crackles through the transmission, weary but steady, the kind of tone that only comes from someone who's seen far too much. It's a human military commander, addressing no one in particular, perhaps recording a log, or maybe just speaking into the void, a habit picked up over long, sleepless nights on distant planets. We're running low on everything, the commander says, the exhaustion palpable even through the static. Food, medical supplies, ammunition. The men are tired. Hell, I'm tired. There's a pause, the sound of something being shifted in the background. But it doesn't matter. We keep going. We don't have a choice. The tribunal, listening to the transmission, shifts uncomfortably. They've heard plenty of human transmissions before, but this one feels different, less aggressive, more introspective. In it, they sense not the cold efficiency of war machines, but the weight of something far more complex. Something personal. We lost Sector 7 yesterday. Another city, gone. Another 1,000 lives, gone. The commander doesn't sigh, doesn't raise their voice. It's just a simple, cold fact. And for what? A few more days of survival? A few more meters of ground? I used to think there was some grand strategy behind all of this, some reason for the sacrifice. But now? I'm not so sure. Across the galaxy, soldiers sit in the ruins of what used to be thriving colonies. Human soldiers, who fought battle after battle, now sit huddled around fires in makeshift camps. The camera pans across their faces, tired, hollowed out, some staring into the flames, others lost in their own thoughts. There's a silence among them, a silence that speaks louder than any words could. It's not just the fighting, the commander continues, their voice growing quieter, more reflective. It's everything else. It's the homes we'll never see again. It's the families that were wiped out in the first few months of the invasion. It's the fact that we've been at this for so long that I can't even remember what we were like before. A pause. This time, there is a sigh, faint but unmistakable. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we were always like this. Maybe war is just part of what we are. I don't know anymore. The tribunal members exchange glances, their rigid expressions softened with uncertainty. For all their accusations of barbarism, they hadn't considered this angle. These aren't mindless warriors. These are people, weighed down by their own actions, but still moving forward because they feel they have no other choice. There's no glory in any of this, the commander says, voice barely more than a whisper now. No grand speeches, no triumphant victories. Just survival. Just trying to make it one more day. In the human camps, soldiers speak in hushed voices, trading stories about home, if they still have one. Some talk about families they'll never see again, others about friends who died in their arms. But none of them speak with anger or rage. Just quiet acceptance. This is the cost of war, they seem to say. This is what it means to keep going when everything around you has crumbled to dust. One soldier, younger than the others, stares out into the distance. I used to think we were the good guys, he says, almost to himself. But now? I don't know. We've done things, you know? Things I never thought I'd be capable of. He looks down at his hands, as though the weight of those actions has become something physical. But what else can we do? If we stop, if we let up even for a second, they'll wipe us out. Every last one of us. The tribunal struggles to comprehend this. To them, war is an institution, governed by rules and honor. It's a means to an end, a way to settle disputes or expand territory. But for humans, it seems to be something else entirely, something primal, something that reaches down into the core of who they are. War isn't just a tool for them. It's survival. It's all they've known for so long that they can't imagine anything else. But there's another layer, one that the tribunal is only just beginning to grasp. Humanity isn't devoid of feeling. They aren't emotionless machines, marching blindly toward victory at any cost. Every life lost, every city destroyed, every battle fought leaves scars, both physical and emotional. And yet, despite the pain, despite the exhaustion, they keep going. It's not that we don't feel it, the commander's voice says, cutting through the silence once more. We feel it more than you can imagine. Every loss, every death, it's like a piece of us dies with them. But that's what makes us dangerous. We know what it costs. We know the weight of it. And we carry it with us, every day. The tribunal shifts again, their discomfort growing. This isn't the cold, calculating species they had imagined. This isn't a race of monsters bent on destruction for its own sake. These are people, burdened with the knowledge of their actions, but still fighting because they see no other choice. And that's the thing, the commander says, the transmission beginning to fade. We've lost so much, given up so much. So there's nothing left for us to lose. You think you can break us? You think you can scare us? We're already broken. We're already scared. But we keep going. We keep fighting. Because that's who we are. The tribunal sits in stunned silence as the transmission ends. They had come to this trial expecting to pass judgment on a race of mindless warriors, but what they've encountered is something far more complex. Humanity is dangerous, yes. But not because they revel in chaos. Not because they enjoy destruction. They are dangerous because they are willing to sacrifice everything, because they know the cost of war, and they are willing to bear it. There's a pause, long and heavy, before one of the elder tribunal members speaks up. Perhaps, we were too quick to judge. But even as the words leave their mouth, it's clear that the tribunal is still grappling with what they've learned. Humans don't fit neatly into their understanding of the universe. They aren't monsters, but they aren't heroes either. They are something else entirely. Something that, despite all their wisdom and experience, the tribunal cannot fully comprehend. The chamber was alive with tension. Dozens of species, each with their own distinct voices, crowded the floor of the Galactic Tribunal, debating, arguing, shouting over one another in a cacophony of languages. It was chaos, but beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of something far more dangerous: fear. A tall, insectoid figure stepped forward, its mandibles clicking as it spoke in sharp, precise tones. "We have seen enough. Humanity has proven itself to be a destabilizing force, incapable of following the most basic laws of civilized warfare." Its compound eyes scanned the room. "They are a virus, spreading through the galaxy, and we must deal with them accordingly." Around the hall, several others nodded in agreement. A broad reptilian figure, scales glinting in the artificial light, bared its fangs. "Extermination is the only solution. They disregard honor, they disrespect our traditions. If we let them continue, there will be no end to the destruction they cause." But not everyone was so quick to condemn. From the far side of the room, an elder, more reserved alien, with skin like polished stone, raised a hand. "Extermination?" Its voice was a low, rumbling sound that seemed to come from deep within the earth itself. "Have we learned nothing from the countless species we've destroyed in the past? Humanity is unlike any we've encountered before. They are unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability is their strength." The reptilian alien hissed, its tail flicking in agitation. "Strength? You call dishonor strength? They ambush, they deceive, they use weapons that are outlawed by every civilized race in this galaxy. They are nothing more than savages." Perhaps, the elder conceded. But we have underestimated them time and time again. And they continue to survive, to adapt, to fight when others would have perished long ago. Do we really want to risk creating a martyr species? The chamber fell into a brief, uncomfortable silence. The elder's words hung in the air, a sobering reminder of just how far humanity had come, and just how little anyone truly understood them. There was no simple answer here, no easy resolution. Humanity was unlike anything the tribunal had ever faced. Another voice, this one more measured, cut through the silence. It belonged to a member of a warlike race, known for their tactical brilliance and their adherence to strict codes of honor. "I fought against the humans," they said. "I led a fleet against them at Sigma 9. We had them outnumbered, outgunned. Their ships were primitive, their technology laughable compared to ours. We should have crushed them." There was a pause, and the tribunal waited. "But they didn't fight like we expected. They didn't meet us head-on in an honorable battle. Instead, they lured us into a trap. They used the debris fields to hide their movements, turning the environment against us. They jammed our communications, spread disinformation among our ranks. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. My fleet, one of the strongest in the sector, was decimated." The warrior's voice hardened. "They don't fight by our rules. And that's why they win." Murmurs spread throughout the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others remained skeptical. It was true that humanity's strategies often defied convention. They didn't adhere to the codes of honor that governed most species warfare. They saw war as something to be survived, not something to be won through grand displays of power or intricate formalities. The insectoid figure clicked its mandibles again, clearly agitated. And that is precisely the problem. They do not respect the balance we've maintained for eons. If we allow them to continue, they will upset the very fabric of our galaxy. We must act now, before it is too late. Containment is an option, a more diplomatic voice suggested, belonging to a species known for their peaceful negotiations. We could quarantine their sector, limit their expansion. There's no need for extermination. A heavy silence followed this suggestion. The idea of containment had been floated before, but it carried its own risks. Could humanity be contained? Was it even possible to limit a species so resourceful, so unpredictable? I fear containment would only delay the inevitable. The elder spoke again, his voice calm but resolute. They will adapt, as they always have. And when they break free, they will be stronger, more dangerous than before. No, we must decide now what we are willing to risk. From the sidelines, a small, wiry alien with translucent skin spoke up, voice quivering. They don't want to conquer us. They don't want to dominate the galaxy. All their actions have been in response to hostility. They fight because they have no choice. Perhaps, the reptilian countered. But that doesn't make them any less dangerous. A cornered animal is the most dangerous of all. And humanity is always cornered, always fighting for survival. If we don't deal with them now, they will become a threat to every civilization in this galaxy. The elder's eyes narrowed, reflecting the flickering lights of the chamber. That is exactly why we should not destroy them. They are fighting for their place in the galaxy, just as we once did. Perhaps, if we approach them differently, if we engage them as equals, not as threats, we can find a way to coexist. Coexistence? The insectoid alien practically spat the word. With a species that has no respect for our laws, for our ways of life? You're asking us to gamble the future of our galaxy on the hope that humanity will change its nature. I, for one, am not willing to take that risk. The debate raged on, voices rising and falling, accusations and counterpoints thrown back and forth. Every alien species had its own perspective, its own stake in the outcome. Some argued for containment, some for extermination. Others, like the elder, held out hope for a more peaceful solution, though even they seemed uncertain. As the tribunal's final vote loomed closer, the tension in the room thickened. The outcome of this decision would determine the fate of an entire species, perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. But for all their deliberation, for all their debate, one thing had become increasingly clear to everyone in the room: humanity was not like any other race they had encountered. They didn't play by the rules, and they didn't care about honor or tradition. They fought for survival, and they fought ruthlessly. And in doing so, they had forced the galaxy to reckon with its own complacency. Whatever the tribunal decided, one thing was certain. Humanity had already changed the galaxy forever. The final moments of the tribunal arrived with a suffocating tension that gripped the vast hall. Every delegate from every species sat in quiet anticipation, their earlier arguments echoing in their minds. The votes were about to be tallied, and the future of humanity, perhaps even the entire galaxy, would be decided here and now. The presiding voice of the tribunal, a towering figure of crystalline light, approached the center of the room. Its form flickered with shifting hues, reflecting the mood of the chamber, anxious, heavy, uncertain. The votes had been cast in private, but now, with all eyes on the central podium, the decision would become a matter of public record. We have reached our conclusion, the crystalline figure's voice resonated, sending subtle vibrations through the air. Humanity has been placed on trial for its transgressions against the codes of galactic warfare. It stands accused of destabilizing order, dishonoring ancient traditions, and posing an existential threat to every sentient being within our galaxy. A pause. The chamber felt like it was holding its breath. The votes have been cast. Some of you have called for humanity's immediate extermination, others for containment or exile. There has been no easy path to consensus. Whispers rippled through the assembled aliens. Every faction had its own stake in the outcome, some fearing humanity's destructive potential, others quietly admiring their resilience. The crystalline figure continued, its voice unwavering. By a narrow margin, the tribunal has decided, humanity will not be exterminated. A collective sigh, a mixture of relief and frustration, swept across the room. Some aliens grumbled in disbelief, while others nodded solemnly. The tension didn't dissipate, it only shifted into something more complex. For now, they will live. But they will be closely monitored. Should they continue to pose a threat to the peace and stability of our galaxy, this tribunal reserves the right to revisit this decision. The hall fell into a murmur. No one was quite sure what the next step would be. The decision to let humanity live was not a full endorsement of their actions, but rather a begrudging acknowledgement of their prowess and adaptability. Some were furious, believing this was a mistake that would haunt them in the future. Others, though, could not deny the quiet respect they had begun to feel for these unpredictable beings. Then, for the first time since the tribunal had convened, the human representative, who had been silent through all the accusations and deliberations, stood. The entire room turned toward them. It wasn't a grand or intimidating figure. No battle-scarred general or imposing diplomat. It was an ordinary human, their face calm, their demeanor collected. When they finally spoke, their voice was steady, devoid of any sign of relief or gratitude. "We've heard your judgment. We accept it." There was no bow of thanks. No sign of submission or even acknowledgement of the tribunal's mercy. The human's next words, though simple, carried an unsettling weight. "But let me make one thing clear," they continued, their eyes scanning the room. "We will not change. We fight because we must. We survive because we must. And that will never change. We will use any means necessary to protect ourselves, to ensure our survival." The alien leaders stirred, uncomfortable with the bluntness of the statement. The tribunal had hoped that sparing humanity might inspire a newfound respect for galactic norms or an inclination toward diplomacy. But instead, they were faced with the same cold, unyielding species that had defied every expectation from the beginning. "We don't want your galaxy," the human representative added. "We don't need your approval. But know this, if you come for us again, we will fight. And we will win." The silence that followed was heavier than any debate that had come before. It was a stark, unadorned reality laid bare for the galaxy to see. Humanity had no intention of assimilating into the galactic community on anyone else's terms. They would carve their own path, just as they had since first making contact with alien life. The alien leaders exchanged uncertain glances. The tribunal had expected some form of contrition, some promise to reform. Instead, they had received a vow of defiance. It was clear now that humanity would never bow to the rules of war that had governed the galaxy for eons. They were, as many had feared, a force that operated outside of the established order. As the human representative turned to leave the chamber, there was no applause, no acknowledgement of their words. Only the weight of realization settling over the tribunal like a suffocating fog. The galaxy had been put on notice. In the moments following the representative's departure, the leaders of the various alien factions found themselves grappling with a new understanding. They had spared humanity, but they had not tamed them. The humans had made it clear that they would continue to defy the galactic order, to fight with the same ruthless determination that had brought them this far. And while the tribunal had chosen not to destroy them, it was becoming painfully clear that this would not be the end of their conflict with humanity. The crystalline figure, still at the center of the chamber, addressed the room one final time. "This tribunal's decision stands. But be warned, humanity is not to be underestimated. They will not abide by the rules we've set for them. And it is up to each of us to decide how we will respond to that challenge in the days to come." With that, the session was adjourned. The delegates began to leave, some with quiet murmurs of disbelief, others deep in thought, contemplating the future. The galaxy would never be the same. But as the aliens returned to their ships and their worlds, humanity was already preparing for the next conflict. There was no doubt in their minds that this wouldn't be the last time they faced the tribunal, nor the last time they would be forced to defend themselves against a universe that saw them as a threat. They had no grand designs of conquest or domination, but they would fight. Always. As humanity geared up for what lay ahead, one thing was certain: they would never play by the rules, and they would never apologize for it. In the end, it was the galaxy that would have to change, not them. And if war came again, humanity would be ready, unafraid, unyielding, and unwilling to lose.